L.I.M.O, Levette's in my opinion, and I'd like to welcome all of you to On Point tonight, Wanda Carter's CCN News Media. And tonight's guest is Chuckaluck, and we will get to know a bit more about Chuckaluck. That's his stage name. Mr. Hosh is his name, and we're going to learn a lot more about him and his endeavors. He is Chicago bred and has traveled the world. And tonight we're going to experience his journey as we see it through his eyes. I've known Chuck for a while, and through some of the other musicians, Louis Satterfield, the Phoenix Horns, Earth, Wind, and Fire, is our initial meet about 20-something years ago. And I just like to say that it's a pleasure to experience the journey of a musician as an artist. And Mr. Hosh is definitely an artist extraordinaire. Mm-hmm. And his journeys have taken him through many wonderful musicians, as he is himself. And so, Chuck, that song by the Emotions, The Best of My Love, is one of the songs that you played on. And can you introduce yourself?
First, I'd like to say, give all my critics, everything goes, I praise God first before I do anything. And because of him, this is why we're here. And so I want to give praise to God, all praises to the magnificent God. And I want to say hello to all your viewers out there and everybody on this panel. Thank you for having me here. This was a last minute thing. Of course, I am driving, so I just want to let everybody know. So I'm multitasking as always. And anyway, so to make a long story short, I am from the Windy City, Chicago. My name is Charlie Haas. I end up in Los Angeles. That was the last leg of the Emotions and the Commodores tour. At that time, the song was out, what was that? Brick House, and the Commodores had Brick House, and we had Best of My Love. And so it was sold out. We sold out all over the world anyway. And so Maurice came to the Greek Theater. There's a theater called the Greek Theater in Los Angeles. We went there, and Maurice and all the stars came out. Michael Jackson, Quincy Jones, Madonna, all kinds of people came out to see the Emotions and the Commodores. And Maurice had and greeted me at backstage and said, "Man, I love your playing. I love your performance, blah, blah, blah." And then next thing you know, then we went home, right? I met him and greet all the stars and everybody. And we thanked everybody for coming out. And then next thing you know, about 4 days later, I got a phone call from Wanda Hutchinson, one of the lead singers of the Emotions. They said, "Maurice wants you to come out and do the next Emotions album," because Maurice White, founder and leader of Earth, Wind, and Fire, had already did 2 albums on the Emotions under his Kalimba Productions album. So just so people that understand and know. And so from there, I was like, "You kidding me?" So sure enough, packed up, went back out. Maurice put me up. I met Maurice White. We went to a rehearsal. We rehearsed all the music. But before we went, there was already a lot of originals that the Emotions was writing. And so we end up doing the majority, put all the music together for the Emotions, actually. And they sent it to Maurice to listen. And when he listened to it, he said, "I want these musicians on the album." So that's how that worked. And then I ended up doing 2 albums with the Emotions, and the rest is history. And then because of that, I end up being the top bass player moving forward after that, the top session bass player in Chicago. And I started playing on the Charlotte's records, the Dells, Walter Jackson, Tyrone Davis, Gene Chandler. I can go on and on and on and on. And everything is, and there's so much this story is too big. It's just too large. And then I ended up playing with all the blues greats in Chicago, was it James Cotton to Junior Wells, Buddy Guy, Eddie Clearwater, Top Birdie and White, Earth, Wind, and Fire as well. Bass, and Louis that played with not only on the Earth, Wind, and Fire, was Earth, Wind, and Fire section, a horn section, but also they on Michael Jackson's records and Phil Collins, Suit Studio. If anybody ever heard that song, Suit Studio. But anyway, Louis Satterfield is one of my greatest mentors, bass player, that I found out later on that the reason why Burdine was because Burdine learned all what he learned from the great Louis Satterfield, which was the James Jamerson, just like James Jamerson, the bass player of Motown. That's what Louis Satterfield was for Chicago.
Can I ask you a quick question, Chuck? So
Yes.
how did Louis Satterfield switch over to become the Phoenix Horns? Because if anyone listens to Earth, Wind, and Fire, that funky horn section is the guy that is the brother that Chuck is talking about, who was Louis Satterfield, and he had his own section called the Phoenix Horns. So how did he go from being such a wonderful bass player to trumpet?
Well, he was a trombone player, I think.
Trombone.
I don't know. You know what? That's a good question. Actually, I don't know that. I know he went to Phillip High School on 39th Street in Bronzeville, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so what happened is that I don't know when. I think Louis took up trombone at Phillip High School on 39th Street in Bronzeville. So I think, and then I don't know when he picked up the bass or the trombone, to be honest, because he was I don't know if he did bass first or trombone. That's a good question. I really couldn't tell you.
Okay, we'll look into it a little deeper and find out and come back with the answer. But he was prolific in using both instruments, I'm quite sure. Instruments.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Louis was such a great music reader. He can read music. Louis was to me was a genius bass player, like a Ron Carter a level, because he played upright bass as well as electric bass. And so I don't know when he picked up the upright as well as the trombone. And so, and all those guys came out, Maurice White and all those guys, they were all jazz. They were all jazz guys, you know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what we can say about Louis, he's gone from us now, rest in peace, but he left a legacy, and he left a lot of musicians smarter than they were before they met him. So I'd like to segue a little bit before we start asking questions, Chuckaluck. You know, your journey with youth and your journey attempting to be a positive force in this music industry. How would you look at the music industry now as compared to your time, and how is it that we might be able to travel back a little bit to the quality of music that we received then?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay. Well, let's put it this way. Back in the day, at Columbia Records, which I was under, along with Prince, we all had the same management, except he was under, but we had different labels, same management, put it that way. Prince was on Warner Brothers, and Earth, Wind, and Fire, The Emotions, and Denise Williams, who else I can't think of, Jennifer Holliday. We were all, that was produced by Maurice, all those artists produced by Maurice, on Columbia Records. Back in those days, we were all real musicians. The virtual world, the evolution of technology didn't exist, right? And so what happened is that in those days, and the record companies, they say it's really, it hasn't changed much with the AR people. What has changed is the music. The old way of assigning contracts, and a lot of these contracts is really, in my view, a little bogus in some ways. And that's a story for another day. But the business of music is a very can be a very cutthroat business back in those days, because there was a lot of payola that was going off for those guys that had, you know, when they said a hit record wasn't really a hit record, it's just who, you know, it went down to who can buy the most or rent out the most billboards, and then who could pay off the radio station, all that payola that was going off with the radio stations. Not to take away the great music that Earth, Wind, and Fire and Emotions and all the other groups of that, all that band era, because that was the band era with real musicians. And then when Grand Flash Master and hip hop started coming into play, and rap that started off conscious music, the difference is that then the machines came, and it was called the Lindrum. And so once the Lynn drum came into the studio, we didn't see the drummers. Like I was like, where's the drummer at? They said, well, we're not calling him. We got a drum machine. So we went from 2-inch tapes to virtual instruments, as we know today. And so they would sync the 2-inch tape to the drum machine. And so we had to play to a drum machine and not a human person. So that was very new when I walked in, because that was very new. I didn't even expect that, but that was the beginning and the end of seeing musicians as we knew it in that period of unemployment. It's the beginning and end of unemployment for musicians, put it that way. Because a lot of musicians didn't want to deal with the technology because it was all new and people didn't want to bounce their heads around. They wanted to just be musicians and use real instruments, but virtual instruments was taken over like we see today. And so when you look at what's happening today, sampling and all that, so all the laws had to change with sampling, because a lot of young kids were walking around saying we're producers, but they were sampling and stealing people's songs and making a lot of money from stealing songs like Earth, Wind & Fire and many other groups and Ohio Players and Slide and the Family Stone. They were ripping off, so they had to create the law for that, as we know today. So now that came into place. So everything from those days of getting back to your point, what it's like today and what it's so different. The game is the same. It's just that the music is different. Now we got more social platforms. You can now you don't have to pipeline everything to the record company, wait to try to get a record deal, because it was so hard to get one in the first place, and it was so hard to make music because it costs a lot of money to hire musicians and horn players and a violin or orchestra, and you couldn't afford that. So you can only maybe do at $120 hours, plus the 2-inch tape was expensive. And so virtual instruments made it easier for us to not have to go through all that. So there's pros and cons to sample music and what you can do with it. And so there's some positives and negatives about that.
And I think that's all a part of evolving, and we're going to evolve in every circumstance. And we might not like the change, but then that's a part of pivoting and making things better. Like this pandemic, it has been a blessing for some, a curse for some, but really it's helped a lot of people pivot into another realm. And so I'd like to just switch real quick, because today, this month is Women's History Month. And I'd like to just let you tell the audience a little bit about Nancy Green and your affiliation with it, and what we can expect from it. And then I'll let the audience ask questions.
Okay, great. Okay, for those who don't know, I'm sure everybody around the world had at least eaten Nancy Green's pancakes at least one time in their lives, from one generation to the next generation and right till now. Nancy Green was from Montgomery County, Kentucky. She was a slave, and she ended up taking care of those white masters back in those days, and their children. And then I guess one day she decided, to make a long story short, she decided to move to Chicago, just like the migration. We had 2 migrations that moved to Chicago. Well, she didn't come from the Mississippi. She was in Kentucky. And so she moved from Kentucky to Chicago to Bronzeville, and she ended up being a spokesperson for the brand Aunt Jemima. So she was actually, Nancy Green is Aunt Jemima, except but she didn't look like the mammy look that they protest this year about, or last year, I should say, about the mammy look that was connected to systemic racism. And they just retired her brand, her face, and I'm going, well, that's the story. But I'll get to that. But Nancy Green was Aunt Jemima, who was a real living person that lived in Chicago, in Bronzeville, and she took care of the people. She was a storyteller, doing fanfares back in those days. She also was a storyteller. for the fanfare. She was also an activist, and she was a spokesperson for the Quaker family that owned Aunt Jemima, for the Aunt Jemima brand. You follow me so far, everybody?
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Okay. So now, with that being said, that led to a situation that the protest that we had this year was about, because what happened, my company, Base Tribe Nations, is in association with Brownsville Historical Society by the founder of Brownsville Historical Society. Her name is Sherry Williams. It took her 15 years to dig up who Nancy Green was, and her association with the Aunt Jemima brand. And so when they found out that she was buried over on 71st Street, where the mayor, I can't think of the name of that burial site, where our Mayor Washington is buried at, with no stone on it, right? And so she was able to track down the ancestry-wise, the genealogy-wise, and she was able to trace the family that was connected to Aunt Jemima, that they didn't even know that Aunt Jemima was any kin to them. And that's when the story broke on ABC, when she brought that news worldwide. And of course, they had the protest behind that, because what people don't realize is that they stole her recipe. And so by them retiring the Aunt Jemima, they also, and people thought that, okay, we don't see the Auntie Mammy look, because pretty soon we're going to have an exhibit that's April 23rd at the library on, I can't think of the name of that library, on 95th and Halsted.
That's Woodson?
That's the Woodson Library.
Yeah, it's going to be released there. And then I'm doing a whole album, a new album. Basically, they're really protest songs in a more quiet way, and not radical, but basically telling the story about Nancy Green, because at one point we're going to have to talk with the Quaker family that admitted already to the systemic racism related to the Mammy look, and they wanted to give $400 million to the community. But that's something I can't really disclose right now what that means. But my songs are going to be those kind of protest songs in a way, and the educational songs to let people know that we're using the Aunt Jemima as a foundation to elevate our people, because and Aunt Jemima is so huge, and so this iconic figure is going to be a great way for us to basically tell the truth about all who came before her and during her, all the inventions that have been stolen, everything that's been stolen from our people, because we're indigenous people from America, but we're 1% of the Americans' wealth and over $1 trillion into the economy. So all these truths that's revealing itself now, we're using the Aunt Jemima now to inform people about the truth about her life, and the truth, and what we're going to do about changing the policies that our government is that we've been governed over, to change to bring her life to the forefront through activism, right? And so now that's what I'm doing. So I'm being an activist to gather different organizations that we're coming together to put together everything that we want to do on our own. Basically, start our own networks, start working with the children, start opening up creating more farms, getting kids out of this matrix that they're dealing with, and get them back to their roots. This is a grassroots movement that we're doing. Mine is called Base Tribe, and I wish I had my I think I left my mission statement. What my part is in association with Brownsville. So you're going to hear, this is an ongoing thing. Black History for Us month is every day. And what we're doing is that you're going to start seeing us on televisions and newspaper talking about the Nancy Green, because we want to do big concerts. We got a lot of people that's going to join. There's going to be many different types of music, and we're going to inform people about what we should do now in terms of the American system and how we've been operating and how we're going to respond to it, because the truth is coming out more and more and more about Uncle Ben's, and there's so many things that are unfolding that's happening in an actually divine way because of the curse that's been on America. So right now, this is about us, our people, and we have to educate the immigrants, all that came here, because we were already here. And we know that we've been our public schools have been social engineering us, telling our children that Christopher Columbus discovered America, but 500 years before that, the Vikings was here. So why is that? And why are they saying that we were already here before the Asiatic native Indian? But these stories are not being told. So we're using the Aunt Jemima brand to unfold a lot of the lies that's been told to us as adults as well as our children. So we need new forms of education. We need school reform, like not the way that we're doing that's been going on all this time. And everybody's trying to hurry up and go back to school because of the pandemic. But the pandemic has been a blessing because it turns us into our inner God, our inner God kingdom, to start opening up and start asking real questions. What we would like to see 50, 60 years from now. So my activism is what I'm doing, everything that I can to plant, instrument training programs in Chicago and Evanston. That's where I'm starting. Then pretty soon I'll be in Atlanta doing the same thing, working with the police department. And that's what my Down with Guns open instrument was about in Chicago, I don't want to say this, but the mayor, they all took that concept from me with the put the guns down, which came from my program, Down with Guns, Up with Instrument. That was my intellectual property. But I didn't care. I was like,
and that was the previous mayor as well, right?
That's when Mayor Emanuel was in office, and what's that, McCarthy, Superintendent McCarthy, with that got kicked out because of that incident that went down in Bronzeville, of when those police shot that kid. What was his name? I can't think of his name.
McCarthy.
McDonald. Is it McDonald?
McCarthy.
No,
McCarthy.
Are you speaking of Laquan McDonald?
Yeah, I'm talking about McDonald guy. Yes. And that's when they kicked out. They were mad at Black Lives Matter was protesting against Emanuel for knowing about this, and they kicked out Superintendent McCarthy, and that's when that other black officer, I can't think of his name, that took his place. And so Down with Guns, my program was a gun exchange program for instruments. And that's what I was doing in the early stages.
Can I share that program? All three of my children played. All three of my grandchildren, and they were 4, 7, and about 12 at the time.
That's right.
And they got a chance to participate with playing instruments and then playing with professional musicians, because that was the point, putting guns down and picking an instrument up. So I would like to say at this point, anyone that wants to know more about the Aunt Jemima movement, you could put your emails in the chat, or at some point send them to Wanda and just do a tagline, Aunt Jemima, and we'll make sure that we keep you informed of anything that's going to be coming up, the activities, and this is going to be ongoing activities. So at this point, I know you've heard a lot about Chunk and his ventures, and trust me, there's a whole lot more to know. We'll probably have to do a second show, but if anyone has any questions about his history, about his future, go right ahead.
He covered so much. It's hard to know where to start. Before you came on, Chuckaluck, I got a call from Dr. Spivey. He said, Chuckaluck, you gonna have Chuckaluck on? I'll be coming on. I want to meet him. I want to talk to him. He knows you. You all played together. You remember Claude Spivey, Dina Spivey?
Oh yeah. There were they're Moors, yeah. And I love those people, man, because those people were really about elevating our people. As a matter of fact, they were going to do the Woodstock.
Yes, that's exactly right. Exactly
right. And so they wanted to do that, and then of course she passed away, and I ended up doing I didn't even know. I ended up playing for that she booked, and I guess him and her booked. I ended up being at this place and performing for them, not realizing that she had passed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I found out after the fact.
Yeah.
And that was really, I was really surprised because I didn't even know she had passed away.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And we were pretty close, actually. You know, we were always talking, and I miss her terribly because, you know, and so many of our contemporaries are gone, and they really, and we need more people like them.
Exactly.
That want to represent the future for our young people and the musicians, and how important the musicians are. Because it's been too far and too long now that artists that musicians play for, they never mention us that much.
Exactly. Yeah, that's sad.
I mean, it's really disappointing. And I don't want to name no names right here, but I had somebody told me, a musician said, Chuck, look, you've been in so many different genres of music, playing with so many different, like not just blues, but all these people, and no one's talking about you or mentioning your history. Because I'm in so many genres.
Yes.
Some people might be in jazz or R&B, and that's it. I was in African African music with griots that play the chorus, like 604 Day and avant-garde jazz, R&B, blues, funk. I mean, I can't even think of all these people, man. It's just too many. Because you got to think I've been at it for about 45, 50 years.
That's all right. That's all right. You're still looking good, brother. You're doing your thing. That's all that counts.
Oh, thank you. You got that right. And you know, and I thank God, just so you know, that I'm so grateful to be here.
Yes.
Because I'm really passionate about our young people, which is because their future is at stake right now.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But like you said, or Levette said, the pandemic really has been a blessing for some because it's helped us stay at home, consolidate our time, and focus on something that we need to do anyway, whatever it is.
That's exactly right.
I would like to ask TJ a question. TJ, can you hear me?
Yes.
I would like your perspective of the music and how you see it from your perspective as a young person, and the kind of music that is played in your presence, and what is your commentary?
You know, I've heard of a lot of music. Actually, when I was in the 7th and 8th grade year in elementary school, my teacher, his name is Isaiah Baldwin. He plays a lot of music. And he's also the one who taught me a lot about how to dress, which is how I dress now.
Oh, you're so sharp, let me tell you.
You look nice, man. You outdressing me, man. I can't have that, okay?
He's 15. He's 15. Hey, Chuck, he's 15.
Oh, wow.
Yes, he is.
So he really taught me a lot about music, and even he promoted. We did at my school. We did a a Whitney Houston and Aretha Franklin tribute. So music is just something that I love. I absolutely love music. I prefer to listen to gospel music or you know, I listen to a lot of music, but I listen to gospel music most of the time. So that's the music that I see a lot of transformations in, even from just the origins of the gospel music that I listened to, which was music that the slaves would sing, and then somebody decided to put a beat behind it or instruments, and now it's become something that you can speed up. And Dietrich Haddon, who is like taken gospel by storm. You can see an evolution in music. And that's what I appreciate the most, that music is not something that is so stationary, and you can really take the songs that you like and put your spin on it and make it music that other people will actually like, because there are many people like you who like music that you like.
Now, Chuckaluck was wondering, who was that person that you said, I think he wanted to know.
His name is Isaiah Baldwin.
No, Dietrich, I think. Something.
Oh, Dietrich Haddon. That is
the guy that's taking gospel by storm.
He's a young minister. A lot of his songs, he has many mainstream songs. And he's not, I don't think he's not from Chicago, but he is a very prominent member of the
he's
Christian
out of
community.
Detroit. He is Reverend. He's part of also initially Church of God of Christ, the Haddons. And yeah, he's turned it around to contemporary gospel.
And that's the intergenerational thing that we need to know, because that's from his perspective. Now I'll go look him up. I think I have heard of him, but I think I would want to hear. I think I would want to hear him more now. So that's something that I thank you, TJ, that I've learned tonight from you. So I appreciate that.
I think Levette, Reverend Calhoun, you had something you wanted to ask. You're muted.
She's muted.
You're muted, Reverend Calhoun. You're muted.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can. Yeah, thank you so much. And I really appreciate your work and what you're doing for the children. But the question I have, in regards to the Aunt Jemima, I remember when the NAACP, they outlawed Amos and Andy. The thing is irregardless of how we feel about history, do you think maybe there's a challenge of, if you outlaw history, then, like I got 3 generations after me. There are 5 generations of people strong in my family. So if you erase history, if you erase that history, or you put a something blank on it, then how are the children going to know? Because irregardless of our history is good or bad, we were here, And
okay,
so
go ahead. I'm gonna let you finish, and then I'm gonna respond. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm done.
Okay. Now, there's a lot of moving parts. First of all, I want to ask you the question: what do you mean they're going to outlaw? Meaning that they're going to get rid, that they're erasing the history? Is what they're doing? Is what you're saying?
Every generation steps up to be themselves. It's not good, it's not bad, it's who they are, right? So, it just kind of makes me sad, because even the Christopher Columbus piece, I've been teaching since 1990, and very few people deal with history. It's as if our history doesn't exist, It broke my heart when Black Lives Matter, they had protested Dr. King dinner at McCormick Place, but they didn't know that it was Harold Washington that created that tradition,
Wow.
So it's like we're between generations, we're missing information.
Okay, okay, let me respond to this. Okay, number one, I'm gonna the Black Lives Matter. That's a story for another day. That's a Marxist group. Okay, story for another day. So because they don't represent the natives, which that's who we are. All those generations of slaves since the Civil War, all that war, and we fought their wars and we helped them in their wars, and basically we've been gagged order. The Constitution. This is my thing. What I'm looking at in today's, going back to your point, is that's why we need a removal from under the American corporation. Number one, which is not a country. It doesn't link us to the land. And when they call us Black, do you know how many times we've been reclassified? That doesn't connect. That's taking us further and further from our generation of all our people. Your great, all those people, and then the history. See, the technology has been a diversion now. That's why there's no respect for the gospel of God. Put it that way. That's number one. Number two, everything is always sexualized, because now there's a diversion. That's why we're going to have to respond now. We'll have no choice but to respond to the American construct, which is the governmental construct, which means what? They dropped these guns on us in our neighborhoods. They dropped the drugs. They dropped everything you can think of to keep us from elevating, because they stole everything. And what fueled the American economy that all these immigrants are benefiting from? They're the beneficiaries, not us, but your great-great-grandma that was on those cotton fields, sharecroppers, okay? And what's happening is now they're trying to, right now, they give us an illusion that we're protected by the Constitution. They broke all the treaties. They broke all, and they changed the Constitution at will, when it looks like we're trying to speak truth to power, meaning this: your First Amendment now is in jeopardy. What does that mean with your First Amendment? Your First Amendment is what? Freedom of speech, right? to assembly. You're a teacher. And then the thing is that number 3, to petition the government when they're doing wrong. Wrong is wrong. I don't care who you are. Black, blue, green, the government, corporations, it doesn't matter. And what happens is that we're going to have to address all these things that's why we need new school reforms for these children, because the American construct and these public schools are not given, I'm sorry, but everybody has to follow protocol from the government or the Board of Education. But we're not getting what we're supposed to get because we ran by all those city officials that take an oath, whether you're a lawyer, alderman, a governor, mayor, all these people. The reason why we haven't seen our communities elevate in all 50 states. We're not going to talk about Mother Africa, the continent of Mother Africa, but let's say what's going on here, because we are tribe here. Our story is different than African Americans and than the Africans in Africa. When they come here, they don't really ride with us. Okay, let's just be truthful. They don't ride with us. They ride with the white people here.
Chuckaluck,
Let's just keep it real.
Chuckaluck, you said those politicians, they take an oath to do what?
They take an oath. In other words, when they take an oath, when a politician takes an oath, they have to follow. There's a protocol that they have to follow. See, I'm a freedom fighter. See, it's a difference. I'm not indoctrinated, or I didn't sign a contract with the American government or anywhere to get to eat food on my table. Okay. So what happens, you can't say certain things. You can't do certain things. And so what happens is that's why you're not seeing any changes, because that's not what it was built for. It's an illusion to help your and don't get me wrong, there's some aldermen that may want to do something. You got your pastors out there, but some of your biggest pastors at these big churches are operatives of the higher ups.
Can I just
that's a story for another day. Okay.
Let TJ interject.
Go ahead.
I really want to understand, because I can't say that I'm in agreement. What the first part of information that you said was that there were Native Blacks, as you said. Where did you find that information? And then secondly, you said that Black Lives Matter was a Marxist group, and I don't understand where that comes from. And third, politicians, politicians are, my aspiration is to be a politician and a minister. But anyway, politicians have a certain people that they have to represent. And you cannot show favoritism to one particular group because they were disparaged. Yes, you do make laws and policies to help them, but you cannot show favoritism to them because they're not the only people you represent. And if you're only trying to help them, then another group becomes disparaged because you are focusing all your attention on the one group that was once disparaged.
Okay, let me respond to that. For one, as far as that, I didn't say anything about any particular, I'm not saying that what I said exempts all those people. I'm concerned. This is the reason why we have to be concerned. We're too busy sharing. See, this is the problem in America. Just so you can understand this, and quote me, you're going to see me talk about this more. And the time doesn't give me the time to expand on this. But what's happening is that there's a construct that's going on. This is not about exempting any other people and intentions they have to do, but I'm concerned. I should be concerned about us because that's the problem. We're always trying to bring everybody else in to what we're doing, and we have not solved the problem that our forefathers, this is our country. That's the first thing. And the first thing, and let me finish. And the thing is that I'm not trying to say, I didn't say anything about anybody else. We sitting there talking about what's going on in the Black community, because that needs to be the forefront concern right now. Because look what's going on.
Now, explain about the Marxist comment.
The Marxist thing is that you got the LGBT. That's a story. You know, I don't want to talk about that right now because it's such a vast story. But what I can tell you about that is that the LGBT and this, they were closing things, not just like they made that mistake that she made about the earlier comment that they came in and thought that Martin Luther King, but it was Harold Washington, things like that. There was a lot of things that were going on that they did not understand. They don't understand that we are indigenous people. We're not Black either. We're not Black people. We're not African Americans. Those are classifications that came from white supremacy. We have to understand what
Now,
this is.
I like to do a quick interjection because we're just about ready to go. And TJ, this is just
And I have to go to the studio.
something
I
that.
gotta go.
Okay,
Anyway,
and TJ, this is something I was looking at a DNA program about the Indian tribe. And so this young Indian boy, not young, but he was in his 20s, he went to his mom and said, Mom, we just did the DNA on me and you. And when they got the results back, she was so flabbergasted because it all went back to Eastern European. And your Indians that are native, supposedly here, they're Eastern Europeans. And when Mr. Gates, Professor Gates did the DNA on most of the Black people, they all said, well, I was always told that I had Black in my family. My father told me I was part Choctaw. And so the reason that they could never connect Black people to Indian is because they were not from here. So we have a history. If you go back and just do any research on the Black annihilation, on the annihilation of the Black Indian, they were the original. And so it's a lot of hidden information on that. And so let us have that as another show, and then we can bring someone on that is more prevalent to speak on the whole topic. But I would like to thank Chuckaluck for taking the time in his busy schedule to join us. And I'd like to thank all of you for chiming in. And just the, not that he's so special.
Levette, I just have one little thing I want to say.
Go ahead, Vanessa.
Mr. Chuckaluck, this is Sandra. We are Choctaw.
I'm sorry, Sandra.
We are Mississippi Choctaw. And our stuff has already been proven. More so, it didn't have to be proven with the U.S. And Chuckaluck, Blacks are still listed as Negro on the Census Bureau. I didn't want to even chime in on that stuff because it's out there and it's out there to be seen and for verification. But the last thing I wanted to share with, I saw where Sherry Williams, well, not in the article when they were talking about Miss Williams and the grandsons of for the Miss Harrington, for Miss Green,
right?
That the courts dismissed her case with prejudice. Someone needs to let Miss Sherry Williams know or get with that family and let them know that she can get that reversed. All it has to do is someone else other than a great grandson needs to bring up the charge, and they can get their money. This needs to be brought maybe to one of the law schools, and they'll get that generation their money, and as well as the recognition with everything that's going on now with Black Lives Matter. I just wanted to let you know before we left, because that's something you guys can look into. So this organization can actually help get them what they need right now. If ever there's a time to go after it, it is to go after it right now when it is front and center. And they will be given what they're due, because Evanston is giving their folks $25,000 in reparation. If
well,
you
I live
can
in
prove,
Evanston, but
if you can prove your address was there, and I know many of Black people can show that was your address, then you are entitled to some of those monies. So it's happening, but it's happening in spots, sporadically.
Can
I please just say this to TJ? There has been for public education, they have passed a law now that African American history must be taught. And so at some point in time, first, I'm proud of your generation, and I'm proud of those who have stepped up and saved us from that bullet, January 6th. That was a bullet, because if we're living under a dictatorship, we won't have no voices anyway. They're trying to take away public radio. I mean, the government is powerful, so we can't ignore it ever, But I'm just saying that in reference to our history, it's really our job. It is our job to look for it. It is our job to speak on it. And I thank Chuckaluck, because I love listening to him. he was talking about people from my world and my era, you know. But I know my grandchildren would know who they were unless they hear it. That you gotta say it, you know. So I just
And we'll bring Chuckaluck back on because he's a wealth of knowledge, and it's just so interesting to hear all of his perspectives, and just based on what you said, Vanessa, Pastor, about the January 6th, that was a wake-up call saying that these people have said that they were part of this government, and all of a sudden one day they're saying they're not. So that's another topic of conversation. But Wanda Carter, thank you so much. And everyone that chimed in, and Chuckaluck, we will be getting in touch with you for more of your information and your leads and your links and all of that stuff. So you can have a final word to say and take us out.
Okay, well, God bless you all and in good health and wealth. And I want to be able to expand more on all the oppositions and all the people that are trying to say that they're representing us. And I want to say, I live in Evanston, just so you know. I know what's going on with Evanston and its reparation. I'm into reparation. Okay, it's a little different. Okay.
We'll get that on the next go round. So we'll save that.
I just want to say that about and speak on all these things, because what my job is spiritually is to decode every situation and decode it and make sure that people get facts and not feelings. Okay.
Right. And let us ride on that bandwagon that Sandra is saying, because if this is a task that we can help in making happen, let's follow her lead, is looking up the laws and all of the things that can repair that family.
If you can do anything, give me her contact, because I'm already working with 4 lawyers speaking to that situation right now. Because that's what this thing that I'm doing now, to shine light that people don't know about, so that they can get their money, because and some of that money they can donate to to Brownsville Historical Society, so we can open the first state that art, everything that deal with music, arts, so on, and trades and all that stuff like that, because that's what our community needs.
Okay, we're past time, you all. So thank you, Wanda Carter, Chicago Communicated News Media, On Point. My name is Levette Haynes, L.I.M.O, Levette's In My Opinion. God bless you, and peace and blessing.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Okay.